just clicked it. Here we go.
All right. Welcome in tonight, everyone, for another episode of the Urban Files. This is a show focused on all things about the cities that we live, work, and play in. And we just are passionate about cities and we want to share everything about that. So, Max, I understand that you really enjoy visiting colleges when you travel. Have you had the opportunity to visit any specific ones recently?
Well, yes. Interesting that you asked me that. I was most recently in Savannah, Georgia, and took a brief tour of SCAD and went to see SCAD Story, which is billed as the #1 tourist attraction in the city of Savannah. Actually, it is now #2 on TripAdvisor's list.
Okay.
But yeah, it was really cool, really entertaining, and was a nice introduction to Savannah College of Art and Design.
Yeah, and I understand. I mean, if you're looking for a marketing perspective, your son really gave the most ringing endorsement of it. What exactly did he have to say about it again?
That's right. That's right. It was so this SCAD Story, if you've never heard of it before, listeners, is a sort of a 4D immersive tour telling you the story of the beginning of the Savannah College of Art and Design. And it plays a little bit like one of those Disney rides, if you will, where you kind of watch a little video and then you see sort of an interactive display. And so, yeah, my son was really into it. He's 6 years old, and he was super excited about everything. And by the end of that tour, he just collapsed with the biggest smile on his face and said, let's see. Before the very end of the tour, he came to me and quietly told me, I really want to go to SCAD someday. And then when he collapsed with a smile at the very end, he said, I'm in heaven.
That's, I mean, that's about as strong an endorsement as you can get. And, Jaden has high standards. So I think we can both expect great things if he does wind up there. So
yeah, I mean, to your point, I think if you ask him about what SCAD is and what that experience was all about, he probably wouldn't actually be able to tell you much. He just has this very positive association now, and that may carry on. We'll see, but
you never know.
It's genius for them to get the kids hooked from the very early age. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I've been to this myself too, and I actually had the chance to spend a couple weeks in Savannah earlier this year, and it really is like Disney. I mean, I don't know if the whole campus life or all of that is like that necessarily, but the experience is really so unique from any college visit or college museum that you'd ever see out there because of this immersiveness. And so it kind of relates to SCAD's story as an institution as the University for Creative Careers is what it bills itself as. And what it's had is just a really remarkable transformation, not just of the campus over time, but of the city of Savannah. And so it's kind of one of those things where it was founded very recently by most American college standards. It was founded in 1979 in the fall semester with 71 students and basically a shoestring budget. And actually, what this SCAD Story does is in a really inspirational way is kind of describes the way that both the college, the Savannah College of Art and Design, evolved, but also the way that the city of Savannah rose with it. And so, of course, SCAD now is a much more well-known institution who puts people in animation and creative fields all over the world. It has now over 15,000 students, but going beyond that a little bit, it has really transformed in some ways what Savannah was. I mean, I think now we kind of take it for granted, right? Like, Savannah is one of the more popular cities in the southern US, and it's kind of a landmark destination. But, kind of similar to the story of many post World War II American cities, it was really run down. And they talked about in this even how the initial building they had was run down. It had like, some bullet holes in the wall. There was glass missing in the windows there. And so it was just a very incredible transformation of the city over time, I think.
Yeah. So I went into SCAD Story on your recommendation, uh, and certainly TripAdvisor helped. I did not know anything about the story of the school itself, and I also didn't really know that much about the historical timeline for the city of Savannah. I just knew this is a very old city, goes way back. I didn't really know about sort of its rise and fall and rise again. So
Yeah.
this was all new to me, and I have to say, as you said, it's a very new school, late '70s founding, which was a complete shock to me. Growing up in the general region of SCAD, I was totally familiar with it by the time I was in high school in the early 2000s, and it was already by then a very prestigious art school for higher education. So for me, it was shocking to hear that. The other university or college that I compare it to is RISD, Rhode Island School of Design,
Yeah.
and so when I found out how how new SCAD was, I quickly looked that up. But no, RISD is what I expected, which was founded in, I think, the 1800s, mid 1800s, and that's kind of my assumption of SCAD all along. So that was the biggest eye opener for me, was to see how new of a school it is and how it played such a direct role in sort of the revitalization of the city.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I think the founder Paul Wallace, and I think the campus at large is very proud of that. The fact that really they started with one building, and that it's been really a true story of adaptive reuse. Now they have, I think, 70 buildings in downtown. And so I think, you'll hear as a cliche, some colleges, as they're trying to market students or a specific type of student, because this is for some people and it's not for others, but like the city is our campus, right? Or the campus is the city, kind of that relation.
Right.
And I think New York University is kind of an instance of that, because that kind of is crowded there into, I think I want to say like Madison Square Park or somewhere in that area, right? And you'll have some urban campuses like Cleveland State or Pitt or around the country. But I think what makes SCAD so unique is that it literally just sprung up. It wasn't like it grew with the city or as a part of something that was established there or whatever. It just came in and put 15,000 students and probably families and probably their friends and probably all that, and the creatives, right? Having that creative arm in that level of talent that might not have been in that market previously. I think Richard Florida, a lot of times talks about kind of the importance of education and, kind of having creatives and tech workers and people in the arts. And, Savannah is a perfect example of that, because just how expensive it is now to live in the historic district. I mean, before you probably could have bought a fixer-upper for really cheap a couple of decades ago, and now like even those units are out of most middle-class people's price range, and there's many multi-million-dollar properties up and down the main street there. And I think even too, you go to the hotels that probably get business from SCAD now. For those not familiar, they have a fashion week. It's one of the larger ones in southeastern United States. They have a film festival that is very notable. They have an arts festival, a sidewalk arts festival that are separate. So just really, just a lot of stuff that just wasn't at all a part of Savannah's roots or heritage at all, but just that has, really helped the city to become something more of a, I guess the term I heard about in a baseball book that about ballparks is kind of the city as a playground, right? Or the city is like you know, a place for leisure as opposed to just a place for commerce.
Right, right. Let me ask you, put you on the spot real quick. Is there a historical tie for Savannah with St. Patrick's Day and with Ireland? Uh,
That's a good question. I mean, I know that the St. Patrick's Day festival there is absolutely massive. I think it's the second largest one in the whole US after maybe Chicago or somewhere like that, but it's absolutely
Massive.
massive. They get like 500,000 people in there, and it's just basically, from what I hear, it's like all the way to the streets back and everything. And I think probably some of that has been helped along just by Savannah being known as a destination again. But that's something that seems to have been tied in with the city in general. And I think it's so interesting because Savannah does have some cachet as a city. And I was mentioning this, like, like, I guess, like, why don't we put a SCAD in our city? And I don't mean to pick on, like, Arlington, Texas, or, Green Bay, Wisconsin, and maybe they could become that too. But I think Savannah, you have that combination of the old and the great story and history that was there, and that compactness of traditional urban form that allows you to really create something and have a compactness of creators together that might not be possible in a lot of places, at least to the degree that they've achieved it in Savannah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it sounds like to me, as I understand it, it's a matter of like perfect timing because
Yes.
you you wouldn't really find you're very lucky if you have this idea and you want to form this school, and then you have an actual canvas that of a city that's got incredible bones. uh Savannah is a master planned
Oh
city,
yeah.
and uh but then you have lots of vacant properties that are cheap, undervalued, ready to be transformed. And I
Yeah.
guess that as the story was explained, that was the opportunity. And
Yeah.
when you think about it, like you said, 70 buildings or so now. I mean,
Yeah.
that's it's just
It's
it,
a huge part of the city's downtown now, and it's I think, to your point, it speaks to, because even the places that you would think are undervalued of the undervalued are not going to be as cheap as you would have found probably the land and buildings in SCAD when it was initially being brought up during the 70s. So I think you can owe some of SCAD's success there to just how apathetic and unaware America as a whole, and how much it undervalued urbanism. And I think obviously SCAD and many other things since that has shown us how wrong that was and how undervalued that was. But it really is a remarkable place. I mean, and I think Savannah as a city is very interesting, but just that seeing it through the lens of a major employer and educator and all that, in and a producer of entertainment, even, in a sense, all the stuff they have there. I think that really changes the outlook that many tourists might have if they're kind of just going on the basic, like, Savannah Leaper Trolley, or going down and partying on River Street or something like that.
Right, right, right. You wouldn't know it. And I, of course, this was my maybe fifth time visiting Savannah, and it's always a short visit, 1, 2, 3 days at most. Um, Typical kind of tourist vacation for me, and I never, like I said before, never really knew the backstory, never realized the impact that SCAD had on the city. Um, so yeah, very very cool to see, and I think this is a topic that we can dive deeper into in the future, um, looking at how examples, I guess, of schools kind of transforming an urban identity in
Oh,
different.
I completely agree. Yeah, because it really is so central, and it's so unique. And I think you and I both have some really kind of, probably some other experiences that could add to this sort of series. So Let us know in the comments if you have a college town or story that you think would be particularly compelling also in addition to SCAD.
Yep. All right. Thanks for sharing, Chuck. It was fun to chat as always.
Yeah.